Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast in a game between RVM Mentalist versus OGS's Hyperdub here on Xel'naga Caverns. We have Mentalist spawning as the red Protoss player on the south side of the map as the red Protoss. Meanwhile, we have Hyperdub spawning on the north side of the map as the blue Terran. So this is going to be Terran versus Protoss here in the Xel'naga Caverns. I am looking forward to casting more games with you. Hopefully I am energetic enough for all of you guys out there who say I don't have enough inflection in my voice. Yeah, just trying to get back into casting after taking a 2-day break, and it should get interesting. So we have Hyperdub pretty much opening up with that standard supply depot at that 10 timing. Meanwhile, back over here, Mentalist opening up with that standard pylon. Nothing too much to talk about here. Terran versus Protoss. The general metagame right now in Terran versus Protoss seems to be a lot of infantry versus Colossus and Psystorm. Psystorm not as much recently, just because of the latest patch where Amulet research was removed. But I think as the pro players are able to just adapt their Psystorm a little bit more, warp in High Templars a little bit earlier and in preparation where they can gain up energy, I think we will start to see Psystorm slowly make a comeback, as players are just going to be relying on Vikings to take down Colossi. Now, I haven't seen this game yet, so I don't know what to expect, but that's just where the general metagame is going to be, and it may come down to a game of execution. Pylon now being warped in on the north side, so yeah, pretty standard builds coming in from both players. Now, Xel'naga Caverns is a map with only 2 spawning locations, as you guys already know. So what I expect to see is an expansion attempt probably sometime around the 7-minute mark. We'll see what's going to be coming in from both Mentalist and Hyperdub. I don't know these two particular player strategies, whether or not they like to go macro heavy, but I do expect both players to at least establish an expansion, or try to establish an expansion relatively quickly in order to not fall behind. They'll probably just make a large enough skeleton crew. Hyperdub will probably be able to create enough units. Oh no, now going for a very early command center. So that command center very early, and the probe just simply charging up the ramp and going to get sight of that command center, and that is critical. That means that we are going to be getting a Zealot, most likely, or some Stalkers inside the base very quickly. Now we already see the Zealot making its way out. A bunker could be placed down. 2 Marines need to be trained, but Hyperdub going for a very, very aggressive fast expansion attempt, and well before the almost at the start of the 3-minute mark in this game, as this Zealot now making its way across the map. I believe as soon as this SCV sees that a Nexus is down here as well, he's gonna breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that he can get that command center up and running pretty easily. 1 Marine on the low ground, a Zealot over here. The Zealot most likely going to wait for its Stalker friend to come in, but by the time that Stalker friend comes in, we are going to get a lot more Marines, double training Marines off of 2 Raxes. So it is going to be, what, a 4-food army versus a 4-food army. So they are going to start to charge up that ramp now. Marine now trying to back off. And are they going to try to funnel in that Stalker? Oh, the Stalker now trying to come up that ramp. Sees that there are 4 Marines now also getting a tech lab. So we are going to be getting some Marauders as well. And that Stalker doing a great job of kiting some of those units, getting some damage. And now there you go. By having the Marines sit right at the top of the ramp, the Stalkers know that they have to retreat, but this expansion will be up and running for Mentalist very, very soon. Command center already upgraded to an orbital command, already called down 1 mule, and oh, a Stalker quickly finds the SCV over here in the corner, is going to get taken down and now return home. So 2 Stalkers able to stalk down that SCV and shut it down. We are getting a second refinery into play here, getting that concussive shell and going into more infantry play. So it is going to be a lot of infantry play, and I'm curious as to whether Hyperdub will eventually get tech labs and reactors across all of these Raxes. At some point, he's going to get a very large army of units, and give me a moment. Alright, sorry about that. Getting back to the game, SCV is now being transferred over. So yeah, this is going to be a very heavy macro game, and Mentalist also queuing up a lot of probes on his Nexuses, and this is normally something that you don't want to do. You want to queue up maybe into the 1 position or into the 2 position, but never into the 3, as as you would rather be spending your minerals elsewhere and otherwise. But maybe if you just want to queue it up, it will help out just a little bit. Marines and Marauders now being just transferred to that low ground. I'm expecting to see a factory sometime soon. Just because the factory would allow for the starport and the reactors, we are going to be getting medevacs and Vikings as a very nice addition to this army. But it looks like still Hyperdub is not going in that route anytime soon. We are going into a 2-gate play with a 3rd gateway and a robotics facility coming in. So standard play coming in from Mentalist as well. A decent enough size army to be able to fend off anything that may come across the map, and with a Xel'naga watchtower in the center, being able to have a nice early warning system just in case any units do try to come in. There is double pylons blocking the back entrance here, so no units will be able to run by, no Hellions or anything of that nature. A second tech lab was added on in enabling the ability to research both the command shield, or the combat shield, and Stimpack. Yeah, that knock on the door, a little bit more distracting than I thought. Anyways, Hyperdub continuing to just call down mules as I try to refocus myself. We are getting Immortals added on, and both players just pretty happy adding additional units into their army and so on and so forth. At some point, Mentalist should be trying to take down these rocks and also expanding into a 3rd base. It looks like he should be doing that sometime soon. He does have a decent number of probes at both bases already, deciding to only have 16 probes at each of the bases, it looks like. But as soon as he continues to train up more probes, he will be able to establish this expansion and get a very strong macro. We are also getting the robotics bay, but right now we are looking at an army of Marines and Marauders on the move. They are not upgraded. I don't see an engineering bay, and I don't even, finally we have that factory coming into play. So it's going to be quite some time before we get any medevacs. About 2 to 3 minutes before we see any medevacs, so it will not be incorporated into this particular push. Marines and Marauders now just happy to activate one Xel'naga watchtower. This one pylon over here will get destroyed with relative ease, as nothing is going to try to warp in, as those units that warp in would simply fall the moment that those units were there. We are getting the set of destructible rocks destroyed as well. So it looks as though Hyperdub looking to expand very, very soon. And now Mentalist following suit, enabling him to clear out these rocks as well. And we should be getting a very heavy macro play. The Observer is still wandering around on the inside, pretty much sees everything that it needs to see so far. It sees that there is 5 barracks, no reactors on them. And now we are going into that starport and also building 2 starports at the same time. This is something I like to see more from Terran play, as an early reactor does help out a lot, but we are also getting double reactors. So this is going to be training of 4 medevacs at the same time. And oh, in comes some force fields. Nicely done, preventing the Marines and Marauders from being able to retreat at all. Now it is just a bunch of Marines and Marauders trying to fight back against the majority of Mentalist's army, and those force fields doing such a great job minimizing the amount of damage and splitting up that army. And now heavy losses for Hyperdub. Hyperdub losing the majority of those units there. If you take a look at the standing army now, 1625 versus 700. 700, so very large difference there, in addition to the mineral, in addition to the gas difference. So that is very large as well. But as soon as these medevacs start to double train, or quadruple train for that matter, the game will change significantly. So at some point, I'm still expecting to see reactors being placed down by some of these units here, and we are finally going into that engineering bay, which will get those level 1 weapons upgrade. Hyperdub now in full defense mode, knowing that an attack could be coming sometime soon, but Mentalist deciding to go for an expansion. And yes, Akai, Ringo, I forgot to put up my busy. Yes, you're forgiven, Akai. So yes, Colossus, Stalkers, Sentries, and Immortals now making their way out. Full defense mode by Hyperdub, as Hyperdub knows that an attack could have been coming sometime soon. But after he activated the Xel'naga Watchtower for just a moment, he knew that the attack wasn't there, decided to salvage those bunkers, and now start that level 1 weapons upgrade. We are still double or quadruple training Vikings as well. So it's very important for the Terran party, or the Terran army, to have 2 sets of starports. I normally like to go 1 starport with a reactor, also 1 starport with a tech lab, at least for a Raven or 2, just because scanner sweep is very important in being able to track down observers, and also making sure that there are no Dark Templar in the army. Mentalist just deciding to slowly press his advantage right now. You can see 3150 versus 175, 61 harvesters compared to 59, and now Mentalist continuing to add to his army. We are getting the armor upgrades, which will work out well in addition to that Guardian Shield, since all damage is range damage coming in from the Terran player. I'm not actually sure about the Hellion damage. I know it is a range of 5, but I'm not sure if it counts as melee like the Firebat from StarCraft 2. That's actually a good question to ask, or do a test on, whether or not Guardian Shield reduces the damage by 2, or if the Hellion attack is similar to the Firebat attack and actually counts as a melee. We still have the Colossus still adding on to this army as well. That is a large amount of Colossus, and you can see in this tight ball and tight group here, the sheer size and the sheer power of the Protoss army. One of the reasons why Protoss is so strong with that Protoss ball is that a very small surface area is needed to incorporate a very large amount of food-sized army. Marauders and Marines now going to go ahead and engage. Vikings are in the air, and that is a lot of Vikings. The Vikings should be able to finish off many of those Colossi as the Marauders and the Marines are just continuing to pull back. Force fields are a little bit late there, and now only 2 Colossus left in this engagement. The Vikings could try to get off another round of attack very, very easily, but it doesn't look like that much damage was dealt at the natural expansion at all. So what, 139 food versus 154. You can see army supply and worker supply. The balance of the current balance is currently in favor of the Terran player in terms of supply count, but in terms of actual army count, I believe oh yeah, Terran player also has an advantage in army as well. So, what Mentalist should be trying to push out, perhaps trying to shut down this command center. It just landed. A lot of damage will be dealt. Vikings now making their way over. No Guardian Shield just quite yet. There you go. Finally getting that Guardian Shield, but it is a little bit late. The Vikings continue to just mow down those Colossus as the Stalkers try to finish off the rest of this battle. More Immortals need to be added to this army. Stalkers do have Blink, and that was their saving grace there, being able to retreat very, very nicely. The Marauders are upgraded 1-0 against now 0-1 upgraded Stalkers Colossus, but the sheer number of Vikings focusing down those Colossus was what won him that battle. Perhaps some Phoenixes or some Void Rays being added to that air army would help out. A planetary fortress is now in play, mules being called down, so the income of Hyperdub should be very, very high as these mineral patches are nearly mined out, as eventually this expansion needs to be set up as well. Income wise, 1800 versus 2300. Production wise, you can see more Immortals are being added to this army. Perhaps it should be chrono boosted as well in order to just increase the sheer firepower of this army so far. Back over here, you can see that the Nexus is currently being warped in. Mentalist needs to take down these rocks in order to clear out or get this expansion underway. You can see the Observer still in the air, and that one missile turret just outside of sight range, so that Observer is still able to gain sight and keep track of the Terran army throughout this matchup. And so far, we are now going into the Templar archives, so Psystorm definitely in the future. So Psystorm most likely will, Psystorm will be researched, and also Templar should be warped in before the Psystorm is ready, just so you have that 75 energy. It makes perfect sense, as we are now going into the 2-2 upgrades in addition to the ship level 1 upgrades. So those Vikings are going to be able to shoot down units even more quickly. SCV down over here does see that there is a Nexus currently being warped in. I do not see, oh, there is an additional command center, but where is it being placed? Over here, will be reestablished here in just a moment, as a Marine also keeping track of this expansion location here, just a little bit of a distance. The Mobius reactor now being researched as well, so that Mobius reactor giving the starting energy on those ghosts, and giving 25 additional starting energy on those ghosts, allowing them the EMP shockwave the moment they are within combat range. They just have a little bit of a walk to go before they quite get there. More researches coming in, and both players just trying to feel out the other player. At any time, the Mentalist is now going into level 3 armor upgrade, so that is going to be absolutely huge until Hyperdub gets his own level 3 weapons upgrade. So with that Guardian Shield and an advantage of, I believe, one or two in terms of that armor, you can really reduce the amount of damage that Marines do. Marines do a lot of damage by attacking very quickly in a small amount, but that's exactly what Guardian Shield and armor is good at protecting, being able to whittle away or decrease the amount of damage each Marine shot does, down from, I believe, 8 down to what eventually would be 3 if he had that Guardian Shield. Personal cloaking is being researched, and I do realize that the personal cloaking icon is exactly the same as the Banshee cloak icon. I did take a look at it. I always thought one of them was pointing up. I guess that is not the case. We are getting some Nexus, an additional Nexus at the 3 o'clock location, so this is going to turn into a very heavy macro battle, but we are also going into double nukes. So nukes are going to be used very well and very effectively as well, and it's going to be, I'm curious as to what exactly those ghosts are going to be able to do. Getting a clear EMP shockwave will help and reduce the amount of damage, and also remove the energy on those High Templar. Those High Templar currently don't have enough energy just quite yet, as both sides are battling it out. Stalkers and Immortals, and you can see the Vikings just completely eating through all of those units, and now Force Fields coming in. Stalkers trying to get in some damage as well, but the Force Fields are actually blocking their ability to be able to chase in this battle so far. EMP Shockwave reducing all the energy on those High Templar down to 0, but he does not want to get... Oh, there's one Psystorm in that battle, and you can see how much it already softened up that army. 4125 Psystorm, another one coming in, and oh, destroying so many of those Marauders. And now I believe Mentalist may have a slight advantage at this point in the time, as he's going to now come down into this expansion location, sees absolutely nothing, and now wants to figure out what exactly he can do. Marauders now being added. The Marauders are now 2-2, and now 3-3 upgrades coming in as well. That Psystorm can prove very, very deadly if used on a tightly packed group of units, but Hyperdub not giving that opportunity just quite yet. So Orbital Command going to re-land here in just a moment. More units still being added. 5175 versus 5300. This is still anyone's game, and a very close game at that. No one really has the advantage so far. Back into this battle, we now see the Zealots now trying to make their way in. Stalkers also blinking in as well. The Ghost going to get an EMP Shockwave off, depleting a lot of energy. No, I believe the Ghost was not actually able to deplete any energy at all as this battle now continues. So both sides continue to just battle it out. High Templar is now perhaps going to get some Psystorm, as Vikings now in a desperation move coming into ground mode, and now they are getting destroyed as well. So the Stalkers are now continuing to battle it out, and now Archons being merged as Immortals battling toe-to-toe against SCVs. SCV able to take down one of those Immortals, as the Stalkers also try to blink away Archons now with that very, very powerful splash anti-biological damage, doing a lot of damage across the board, able to just finish off more. But now an EMP Shockwave depleting some of the energy on those Archons. It only does 100 damage to those shields. So still, both sides continuing to push. SCVs now just perhaps going to try to run head on into this group once again. An Immortal and Archon, both sides trying to get that splash damage, and now that Archon's going to rack up those kills very easily, already up to 17. And going to get up to 20 very, very easily before it gets taken down by the rest of those Marauders. In this time, Mentalist was able to transition his probes, and I believe the economy difference is going to be the real deciding factor at this stage. We are getting more SCVs, more Marauders, and 3-3 upgrades coming in. Stalkers are also being upgraded as well, but it's the fact that Hyperdub only has a very minimal number of SCVs over here, now trying to just mule out this location here, and now trying to take the 9 o'clock expansion by lifting off once more. Very nicely done. These High Templars and Archons were really able to slow down the economy of Hyperdub. Hyperdub being forced to use his SCVs in order to fight back. And now I believe Mentalist can just slowly take his time and then eventually come out on top in this game. You can see the sheer macro of Mentalist running off of, what, 15 gateways, able to warp in a lot of units and then dump all of his minerals very, very easily if he decides to, not even having that many probes on gas. This gas geyser not even being mined. However, these gas geysers are being mined as well. And this now upgrading to a planetary fortress. Mules should be called down over here in order to help out with that mining process. We'll see what's happening as both sides are slowly trying to rebuild their armies once again. The Stalkers are now almost upgraded to 331, which is going to be a very, very high level upgrades. The Protoss army benefiting from the fact that the Stalkers, Sentries, Zealots, and Colossus all share the same weapons upgrade. Unlike siege tanks, Vikings, Marines, Marauders, or in this particular case, Marauders, Marines, Vikings do not share those upgrades, having separate upgrades every time. But yeah, Hyperdub took a very hard beating in this battle, and we'll see what he transitions into. A planetary fortress now in position, going to finish off 2 low hit point Zealots very easily. And now in comes another battle over here. Zealots now trying to push into this location, but now in comes another battle. Marauders and Marines, both sides trying to fight it out. Stalkers zeroing in on that distance. Colossus now getting in position as well, using that extended thermal lance range with a range of 9. There are cloaked ghosts as well joining in on that fight, taking down some of those sentries. So those sentries taking a beating from those ghosts, as the ghosts are able to deal a large amount of damage towards those sentries. But ghosts are going to be revealed in just a moment. And as soon as those ghosts are revealed, well, I guess they're not going to die, as Hyperdub says GG. So Hyperdub losing to Mentalist here in the Xel'naga Caverns. A very close battle, going back and forth and getting a lot of damage dealt to each other. But I think that one battle with just a lot of splash damage with those Colossus, and then following up with Storm to just slowly weaken that army, was absolutely critical. By being able to at least weaken the army, those you can see the medevacs, all of those old medevacs had easily ran out of energy, and medevac without energy is just a dropship, and an expensive dropship at that in StarCraft 2. So that ultimately was what undid him, that Storm in combination with those Colossus. And I'd like to see this play from Protoss players, using a combination of Colossus and Storm in order to handle infantry. Hyperdub did get Ghost, but I don't think he used EMP Shockwave nearly as effectively as he needed to in order to get the desired results and be able to keep his infantry units alive. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 replay between OGS's Hyperdub and Pro S's Mentalist here in the Xel'naga Caverns.